All right, we've been looking at the issue of the IEC, the Independent Electoral Commission, now going to the Constitutional Court to ask it to defer elections that should be held in October this year because of COVID, because of its investigation, because of the Moseneke report, defer those until the end of February next year. Let's speak to a constitutional law expert now, Advocate Michael Osborne, joining us. Advocate, thank you as always. So the IEC, the Deputy CEO was speaking to us a little bit earlier, saying this is uncharted legal territory. Do you agree?
Yes, good afternoon, Francis. And yes, I think that's a fair characterization. It's an unusual situation where the Constitution, of course, could not have anticipated a global epidemic that would reasonably or could reasonably be argued to require the postponement of an election. The Constitution does allow for limitations and qualifications to the Bill of Rights, to the ordinary basic rights of individuals. However, the limitations section of the Constitution does not allow for variations from the basic structural features of government. One of those is Section 159 sub 2 of the Constitution, which states in unqualified terms that the term of a municipal council may be no longer than 5 years, firstly, and secondly, that an election must be held within 90 days after the end of a term of the municipal council.
Okay, but globally, I mean, 2020, we saw elections postponed. So you're saying there's no great precedent for us to look at, I guess, because this has to be in line with our specific law, our specific constitution.
Yes, that's quite right, Francis. The local elections in England, in fact, were postponed from May of 2020 until May of 2021. That was under emergency powers declared in Westminster. But what's important is that in the United Kingdom, we don't have the same entrenched constitution which sets in stone the principle of a particular timeline for a municipal council. On the other hand, in India, the elections were not postponed. The local government elections last year were not postponed, and that, according to some reports, rendered polling stations into super spreader events. On the third hand, in the United States, there were calls for the postponement of the elections last November. That did not happen. As we all know, the election took place. And according to the reports I've seen, there's been no identification of the election as having been cause of super spreading, even though some of Donald Trump's electoral rallies in advance of the elections were said to have been super spreaders.
Okay, so it's a mixed bag because everybody remembers India, what happened after that. So an analyst earlier said that the Constitutional Court may not want to intervene here, may throw it back to the legislature. The Constitutional Court has to now look at the right to health and the right to your democratic rights to hold government accountable and kick people out if you don't like them. What do you think the court could do here?
Well, precisely because it's uncharted, it's very difficult to predict. One option would be, as you've said, to send it back to the legislature, which would mean, in effect, demanding that Parliament, within a very short space of time, amend the Constitution. Section 159 sub 2, which, as I said, sets up this rigid timeline, that could in principle be amended by a 2/3 majority in Parliament. The other possibility, and if I were to guess, I would think it's more likely, is that the Constitutional Court would find some way in these exigent, unprecedented circumstances of permitting the postponement of the elections for a very limited and definite time span. What Justice Moseneke, the former Deputy Judge President of the Court, recommended in his report, which was adopted by the IEC, was that the elections be postponed until February 2022, by which time, according to the experts that testified before Justice Moseneke, the likelihood would be that the danger of infection would be greatly reduced, because by that time, according to projections, South Africa might be approaching herd immunity.
So very quickly, because we're running out of time, this isn't only about the elections, but like you said, about the councillors that now have to stay put. Some of them may have thought, well, at the end of my term, I'm getting another job, or maybe I'll be voted out. Would the Constitutional Court also have to look at that and basically tell them to stay put?
I'm not sure that that's relief that has been sought. No court can compel a political office holder to stay in office if he or she does not wish to do so. I should say that, assuming that the election is not held on October the 27th, that doesn't mean that all of the municipal councils will have to fold. There will still be your 90-day period thereafter, in which they may still function.
Okay, thank you so much, Advocate Michael Osborne. Some good legal analysis there, and yes, this looks like it's going to be an interesting court case just because of its unprecedented nature. Thank you very much. Now, social